So that was pretty shocking, wasn't it? What a boring game. I feel sorry for any fan that has gone out to watch that game. Not even just England and Belgium fans, but anyone who spent any time of their life travelling to that game, sitting through it, and now having to go back home, because it was basically a friendly, wasn't it? It was so just rubbish. And I don't even really want to review the game because it wasn't a football match, if you ask me. It really wasn't. How was that a World Cup game? You could clearly see both teams didn't really care what happened. You could see at the start of the game, Belgium were trying to get themselves some yellow cards there. It doesn't matter anymore. It really doesn't matter. It's just beforehand, there was a lot of reports that it was pretty much better to finish second than first in this group. To play Colombia in the next round and then avoid someone else that's bigger, or to play Japan and then potentially go up against a bigger national side. So people were saying that actually finishing in second would be better. So everyone went into this game thinking that both England and Belgium would probably prefer to lose the game. And it did. It looked like it at first when Belgium were throwing in tackles, getting yellow cards, because if the game went to into full time as a draw, then it would have gone down to fair play rules, which would have been whoever's got the least amount of yellow cards or cards in general would have gone through in first place. So for Belgium, who had already had more cards in the tournament so far, they could have easily played a 0-0 draw and then came second in the group because they had a worse fair play record. If you're not following what I mean, I guess it's kind of complicated and kind of stupid. There is a massive flaw in the system. And I'm going to talk about in this video how I think we could do better maybe in the next World Cup. But it was obvious that Belgium didn't really care. But then again, it didn't seem like England cared either. There were multiple times in this game where we could have gone the extra mile. We could have just put in a bit more effort and actually won the game. So let me just start off by saying how I feel about this. How I would be going into the World Cup if I was the England manager or an England player, or if I had any ounce of influence to how they play. For me, it doesn't matter who you're playing, what stadium it is, what part of the tournament you're in, you win your games. It's as simple as that. We've gone into this game against Belgium with massive momentum, 2 really good wins, one very tough game against Tunisia, which we managed to scrape a win, and of course we absolutely decimated poor Panama, who I think have lost tonight as well. I was hoping they would get a win. But you're on a roll. You go into the Belgium game, okay, make a couple of changes because the game ultimately doesn't matter too much. You've already made it through, but you don't put a completely fresh team out that haven't played at the World Cup yet, which is just blowing my mind at this point. But you go in to win it. I've tweeted it out tonight. It's quite simple for me that there is no easy route in the World Cup. Yes, there are, I guess you could say, statistically, easier teams to play. I get that. You'd rather play Japan over, say, Brazil. I get that. Not that that's what was going on tonight, but I understand that. But any game in the World Cup, as England fans will know, over the years, we always seem to fall short against the lesser teams. There is no easy route. Just win your games. There's really nothing too complicated about it. You've got a football game. You put your best team available up, maybe a couple of changes to rest some legs for the next round, and you win the game. None of this tiptoeing around. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. This game for me was one of the most exciting. I was actually hyped for this game many, many months ago when they announced we had Belgium in our group. I was so excited for this game, and actually I looked forward to it thinking it would be almost a decider. It could be win or lose, stay in the World Cup, out of the World Cup. It was going to be one of those games, but it turned out to be really, really disappointing, and I would say probably the worst game of the tournament so far, other than France and Denmark, which was a 0-0. The only 0-0 so far. Is it? I think it is. So I'm really disappointed, but I get it. I get that there are tactics in place. There's no doubt in my mind that both managers, Southgate and Martinez, would have sat down with their squad at some point in the last 24 hours and said, look, it doesn't actually matter what happens tomorrow. In second place, statistically, potentially, we're going to have an easier run-in. Easier. Or we can win the group, keeps our momentum going, and we'll go this route. That's probably what went down, and there was really no reason to go for it tonight. So Really, really disappointing to watch, and I'm so gutted that that's what's happening at the World Cup. This hasn't been like this before. I don't think before this tournament it's ever gone down to these fair play rules. I mean, Senegal, earlier on today, they've been knocked out of the World Cup because they had more yellow cards than Japan. Just saying it out loud, it's mind-blowing. That's not down to football. Sure, discipline, cards, it's all to do with football, but it's not performances that determine how many yellow cards you've got throughout a tournament. It just means that a referee's being a little bit more strict, potentially. It could be the pitch was wet and you were sliding in a little bit more than usual. It could be just a misjudgment. Or yes, it could be that your team is just a bit too aggressive on the day. Fair enough. But surely there is a better way to determine the result of a group when two teams are level on points, level on goal difference, other than going down to fair play, because it's so wrong, and if they don't change it, I think that it's going to be a flaw forever. It really is a massive issue. And with technology these days, information gets passed between stadiums instantly. Now, I know that's the case in the last maybe 2 World Cups, but back in the day, there was none of that. You had to play your game, play what's in front of you, and then just hope that the other results go your way. None of this, the bench knowing before everyone else in the world does, and barking orders to their players to just sit back and play for a draw, or lose, because it would be better for you to lose. It's just wrong. That's not football for me. So I've got a very strong opinion on it. But what would I change? It is difficult, but there has to be a different way. I've seen a few suggestions on Twitter. Some people think it should go down to an extra game. So in this case, if we were level on points and level on goal difference with Belgium, it wouldn't go down to cards. We'd have to play another game. I kind of get that. It would be like a second leg and the winner over those 2 legs wins. But that will never happen because they will never ever schedule an unexpected game in a World Cup because it would ruin the schedule. It doesn't work like that. Players have to have a certain amount of rest. Stadiums have to be pre-ready for the tournament. All the fixtures are lined up. We know which groups will end up where, at which stadium, at what time, on what day. Adding in a fixture that isn't official until it's actually happening, it won't happen. Some people think it should be determined on possession. I'm not a big fan of that. They're thinking average the 3 games that team and the other team have played, and whoever's had more possession then goes through. I think that's also potentially a bit of a flaw. You could have teams that are purposely giving away possession because they don't want to win first place. It almost needs to be something that can't be influenced by the players themselves, which it might just be an impossible task. So I'd like to know your suggestions. How would you do it? Some people saying just a penalty shootout. But what you're forgetting is we don't know beforehand which teams are going to be level, and they might not be playing each other in that final game. So today, a penalty shootout might have worked because we're playing against the team that we're level with. But it could be that the team that you're level with is playing a different fixture. So how would you bring those teams together to do the penalty shootout? It wouldn't work. Maybe we should all make them download an app and they all play each other on the app, and whoever wins, because they can just do it over the internet, it doesn't matter. Or maybe it just needs to be drawn from a hat. Maybe it does literally need to go down to potluck. RNG, as all the gamers in the world will know what that means. Maybe it quite literally just needs to go to 2 teams in the pot, someone pulls out the name, and that is the winner of the group. I think that might be where we go with it. And by the way, this is a normal World Cup tournament with 32 teams. Just imagine what it's going to be like when there's 48 teams. I can't remember which World Cup we're starting that format. It might be 2026. It might actually be the next World Cup, but we are upping it to 48 teams. So this will be a more normal occurrence to have teams on level points. When you've got more games, there's more chance of draws, there's more chance of the same amount of goals. Although you could argue that there actually is less chance of more goals. There might be less goals. Who knows? It's football. You don't know. But I've got a feeling that if they don't change the way that the tournament works, predetermining that Group A winners will play Group B second place and vice versa, it might be the only way we can do it. And ultimately, it comes down to money. These World Cups are great money generators. They want the best teams, the biggest nations, to go as far as they can because the fans will go travelling around the world and pay big money to be there. And that's a sad, sad thing because football is about sportsmanship. It's about passion, community. It's about getting together. That's what sport's all about. It's about a competitiveness, but friendly, if it can be. It's not about business. It's not about advertising. I mean, China, they're not even in the World Cup, yet they've spent over a third of the total amount of adverts. They've bought a third of the advertising in the World Cup. They're not even at the tournament. It just shows to you that this is a business model at the end of the day. And I think, unfortunately, it's always going to be the case. You know, you see the amount of money that nations spend to try and host these tournaments because the tourism it attracts. Just having, Neymar coming to your country to play for the month is a big deal. So, sorry I haven't talked much about the England-Belgium game. Belgium have gone through, top of the group. They will be playing Japan, and England will be playing Colombia, which is exactly what I predicted. And I should remind you, I predicted that Colombia would knock us out. I'm not so sure anymore since the tournament's kicked off and I've been able to watch both teams. I think Colombia look okay, but I think England will beat them. And I think we will actually be in the quarters, but, there's potential we could get a big nation. But that's going to happen anyway. That's the biggest thing to take away from all this stupid ignorance and arguments. To win the World Cup, you will play against one of the best teams at some point, probably twice or three times. You're going to come up against some of the big teams, unless everyone does a Germany and they get knocked out in the groups. Of course, that's not going to happen. What is the point in trying to tiptoe around and just edge your way through with all the little teams first and then just get smashed in the semis? You need to be match fit against the best teams. I want us to play Brazil. I want us to be in the quarters against the team that we really fear the most. That's what football's about. And we won't win the World Cup ever if what we want is an easy route, because it will never happen. But that's just my thoughts. I love making these videos. Thank you so much for the support on them. If you do enjoy them, please do leave a like, but most importantly, leave a comment. I'm always reading through the comments. I seem to get a couple of hundred every video, but I'd like to see thousands of you letting me know what you think. That's what YouTube's all about. It's about a community, even though they're dragging their website through the mud at the moment. Do you know, custom thumbnails might not even be a thing soon. They've decided to test 0.3% of users having no custom thumbnails. So if you're one of the unlucky ones, your sub feed is going to be full of randomly generated thumbnails. Thanks, YouTube. Anyway, I'm getting off topic again. I'll see you guys on Saturday, because there is obviously no football tomorrow. Oh my God, how are we going to cope? But the big games really start then. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.